Yo, what's up guys? So you want to know how much it is to live in Auckland? Well, this is one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and I'm going to give you guys some local knowledge as well as some tips and tricks. Before we can get into the costs of living in Auckland, it is very important for us to understand what kind of country New Zealand is. Let's get into that first. This is a map of New Zealand. We have less than 5 million people in our country, and our nearest biggest neighbour is Australia, which has 24 million people. They're pretty far, and which makes us even further from the world, which means overall prices here in New Zealand are a little bit high. If you guys are coming here to New Zealand and you're visiting, you want to see some tourist spots, public transport may not always be the best option for you because it doesn't always drop you off very close to your destination. Getting a car might still be the best way to get around. But if you're coming here to live for a long-term basis, either a student or if you're coming here for work, public transport, find out where your network is. That's definitely going to be the best option for you if you want to save a little bit of that cash. Currently at the petrol station where you expect to pay about $2.16 per litre. We've got a pretty small car, we've got a Suzuki Swift, and it costs about 65 bucks just to fill it up. If you've got a bigger car like an SUV or something, you can typically pay about 100 bucks. Man, it's making me feel broke just talking about it. Yo guys, if you don't have a car and you want to get around in Auckland, then you're going to stop up here in Britomart. It is where all the trains and all the buses start from. I recommend you guys get a hop card. It's going to cost you about $1.90 per stage. There's a $10 deposit on the card itself, but you get that back once you give it up. Generally, to go anywhere worthwhile, you're probably going to be paying around $5 to $6 though. Now that we got transportation out of the way, let's look at the most expensive cost of living in New Zealand: housing. Houses are very expensive here, and so it's going to be reflected in your accommodation too. There are typically 3 types of places that you're going to be able to stay at. One's a house, apartment, which is what we're in right now, and the other's a unit. And we're going to check out all 3. Let's go. Alright guys, we are in a typical suburban home right now. This is in fact my mum and dad's house. What you'll find is just a classic Kiwi living. You got a nice kitchen, and then you got the dining room, you got a living room, you got a couple of bedrooms, and it's gonna set you back around 600 bucks to 800 bucks for a 3-bedroom home. Further out of the city, it's gonna be a little bit cheaper, and as you come in closer and closer, the price starts creeping up and up and up. If you don't have a family, then you can always get a flatmate. Typically gonna cost you around $200 to $300 for a bedroom of this size. Kind of houses that you're gonna find is either a full section or a townhouse. The cost is almost roughly the same. It doesn't really matter, so it's always in your favor to try and find a full section, because in a full section you're going to be able to enjoy barbecues, a nice patio, you're going to be able to play some sports out on the gardens. But townhouses are just more readily available, and sometimes it can be a real competition in order to try and find a place to live. Yo guys, so we're currently in St. Luke's. This is a typical 1-bedroom unit. The amount that you're going to be expecting to pay for a place like this is going to be about $400 to $600 depending where you are. So that once again, the same rule applies. If you're further out from the city, it's going to be cheaper. If you're closer into the city, it's going to be more expensive. The best way to describe this is you get an apartment layout and then you put it on land. So it's got that whole apartment vibe going on in it, but outside you're not seeing more apartments, you're seeing some nice greenery, and it's a close walk to the suburban areas. You normally get a carport as well, or you get some off-street parking, so that's one of the big pluses. One of the most expensive ways of living in Auckland City is definitely apartment living. You get a very small space for a very high price, but on the trade-off of that, it's very convenient. You're in the central city hub, you've got public transport everywhere you go, and it's a lot easier to get around places. Generally, for a 1-bedroom apartment, it's going to cost you around about $600 if it includes a car park, and about $500 if it doesn't include a car park. You can also opt for a studio, which will cost you only about $450. And it gets a little bit cheaper if you go to the city fringes. Pro tip, if you're looking for a property to rent, the biggest and best website to use is Trade Me. Whether it's flatmates or a place that you want to rent, Trade Me has the biggest variety of places, and if you're looking for doing a little bit of e-commerce shopping, that's the best spot to do for local NZ as well. All you need to do is put the parameters that you want to rent in, and then hit the search button. You're going to get the cheapest prices. Just make sure you're in there quick. All the good places get rented out really quickly. All right, and now one of my favorite topics, eating out. The great thing about food in New Zealand is that you have a lot of variety. If you want something quick and cheerful, you can go for a fast food joint or even an Asian food court. It's typically going to cost you around $12 to $15. If you want to go a little bit fancier, you've got a cafe style food, which is around $20 for a meal and $4 to $6 for a coffee. And if you're going fancy, sky's the limit, but you're typically going to be paying around $30 to $50 for a main. And if you're adding a drink on top of that, it can get really, really pricey. You can even get a $10 non-alcoholic drink all the way up to a $20 alcoholic drink. So you know, if you're cooking for yourself at home, it can get a little bit cheaper, but let's go take a look at some of the grocery prices right now. Yo guys, there are 3 key supermarkets in Auckland. There's the cheapest, which is Pack and Save. There's Countdown, which is where we're at right now. And then there's New World. That's probably the most expensive supermarket. Let's go get some groceries and see how much this all adds up to. Fruit and veg are typically going to range from $2 for your cheapest thing, like bananas, all the way up to $3.50 for things like kumaras and apples. If you're a meat eater, that's typically going to set you back the most, with chicken being the cheapest, normally around $15 a kg, followed by lamb, which is normally around $25 a kg, followed by steak, which is definitely the most expensive, from $30 to $40 per kg, and fish, which is around about the same as well. Under essentials, half a kg of butter will cost you $6.50. Cheese is about $10 for half a kilo. Milk is about $3 per litre and slightly cheaper depending on the brand you buy. Eggs are about $3.50 and double for cage free. Finally, a loaf of bread and snacks will set you back about $3.50. Wine prices range from $10 from a cheap bottle to $20 for a decent bottle. Beer prices are generally about $20 per dozen. So as you can see guys, groceries here certainly are not cheap. The bill for Yen and I generally for a week will cost around about $80. If we are going to be cooking at home most of the time, it's going to be around $120, and that's just for 2 people. So imagine having a family, you're going to be probably paying around about $200 a week. The next section is going to be utilities, and there are 3 general bills that you're going to need to be paying: power, phone and internet, and then water. Power, there's a little hack for you guys. If you go to whatsmynumber.org.nz, you can actually type in your address, and then you will be able to see what is the cheapest power provider for your specific location. Yen and I generally pay about $80 to $100 for power. It fluctuates depending on if you're in winter or if you're in summer. More expensive in winter because you got the heating on and all that kind of stuff, and a little bit cheaper in summer. Let's go check out a couple of internet and phone line providers now. 3 internet providers or phone providers in Auckland. Personally prefer to go with Spark. They give you the best network coverage. There's so many times where my mates have been out in the WAPs. Everyone else doesn't have coverage, but I've still got coverage thanks to Spark. The prices are all about the same. Only thing that's different is sometimes there might be a promotion or something that one of the providers will have, but secret thing for you guys, all you need to do is give your internet provider a call, ask them to see if they can beat the price or match it, and they'll normally do it for you. The great thing about water in New Zealand is you can drink it straight from the tap. And it tastes great. If you're living in an apartment, water is generally included in your body corporate, which means it's free for you if you're renting. If you're living in a house, it will probably cost you around about $80 for water in and water out. So basing this on 2 people living in New Zealand with about $3,000 to spend, 60% of that $3,000 is going to go into your accommodation cost. Now this is nothing extravagant, it's just either a unit or a very, very cheap apartment in the city fringe. Let's get a visual on that. Alright, the next most expensive thing are groceries and eating out, which come to about 25% of your costs, or $650 per month. If you're driving or catching a bus every day, transportation will expect to cost you around $350. Utilities will cost the remaining $200. All up, you're expected to be left with $100 out of that $30,000 that you started with. And that wraps up our living costs in Auckland, New Zealand episode. I hope that's been super informative for you guys. If you guys enjoyed this content, you want to see more from Yen and I, then please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It would mean all the world to us to have your support. Catch you guys on the next episode. Over and out.